Agar.io was made on April 28th, 2015 after 4 months of development by a guy named Matthias Valderes. A game which would go on to inspire the whole .io genre, which altogether has been played by over 15% of the world's population. But where, why, and when did this story start? Well, as for the why, Matthias simply really liked the game called Conways of Life, a game from the year 1970 which looked something like this. Actually, exactly like this. Matthias also really loved cell biology and found it super interesting, so for Agar.io his plan was very simple. Create a game which is as interesting as cell biology and as simple as Conways of Life. That plan would obviously seem very simple since you just had to create a game where the player controls a cell and eats little circles. But it would actually prove to be quite time consuming as Agar.io was simply a little side project of his since his main project was just another .io game called Boxer.io. A game which has the same graphics as an old Pokemon game and in which you basically just build stuff, and to be honest it's pretty boring. I also completely forgot to mention this, but he was also only 19 years old at the time, meaning that as well as working on Voxer, he also had to focus on going to school for 6 hours a day, and then on top of that, probably like 2 hours of studying, which altogether meant that he had barely any time to work on Agar.io. But after 4 months of on and off work, he managed to finally finish the game. This is footage from basically the first day of its release, and as you can see, it basically looks exactly the same as it does nowadays, with the only difference being that viruses used to work like this, and now they work like this. But if you look at this and still think that it's a bit of a waste of time for 4 months of work, he probably could have done a bit better, you'd probably be correct. But the only place you wouldn't be correct is in the fact that he got over 4 million plays in just the first couple of months. Obviously that's very impressive, but what's even more impressive is that for every player you get around 5 cents. And that's on the low side since most players obviously used ad blocker. But even with this ad blocker, he still would have gotten around $150,000, which for 4 months of work is really good. Not to mention, he only worked an hour a day, so dividing that $37,500 by 30, you get around $1,250 per hour. This is around 417 times better than the average hourly wage in the country that he lives in, which is Brazil, where the average hourly wage is only $3 an hour. So, the most important question here is obviously how did he pull that off? And not only pull it off, but pull it off completely by accident. He got a game to get $150,000 in the first couple of months, when his only goal was to have some fun and make a game about cells and in the style of a game that he liked from 1970. Well, the first step to it spreading so much was through the use of Reddit. He uploaded the link to his game onto a Reddit forum, and in the first couple of days, the Reddit users spread it all across Reddit. And just 5 days later, after the game had been published, the first ever YouTube video was published on it.
I promised a little bit of Final Fantasy VII, so we'll play for an hour. But before we do, I want to show you guys this fucking blob game that someone emailed me. Someone told me to stream this, and I said, I don't really want to play this. And then I tried it out, and I was like, oh, a half hour later, great, I'm still playing it. I don't know why this is so addictive, but it really, really is.
Now, does the way that he talks about the game remind you of anything? He doesn't want to start playing the game, but then once he starts, he can't stop, and he can't find why, but it's just so addictive. Well, whether Matthias intended it or not, he used 3 core gambling principles which literally made it as addictive as, well, gambling. Firstly was the intermittent rewards. Intermittent rewards is basically just where rewards are given at random. Just as gamblers think that they could win at any spin, Agar.io players feel that they might discover a split up player and oh my god, that'll be so much fun, so much dopamine. Or they might find a bunch of pellets if they just go over there. Oh, I just died. Maybe if I just play one more time, I'll get out. Secondly is competition and social status. Obviously, the idea of social status in a blob game like Agar.io sounds really funny, but it's literally what the leaderboard is designed for. And the competition part is obvious. You want to get bigger than the rest of the players so that you could eat them better. And the last main principle is quick, repeatable sessions. Gambling sessions are designed to be as fast and continuous as possible, and Agar.io arguably uses this principle even better, since you're not losing anything if you die, unlike in gambling, and once you die it's so easy to just spam through the buttons until you're back in another game. The second key to Agar.io's success was its popularity on social media, specifically on YouTube, after some smaller channels posted some clips and got tons of views. After that, bigger channels such as PewDiePie decided to make their own video on it, to get some money.
He clearly says, don't eat me!
Meine deutschen Arbeiter, ich bin aus
Fucking
euch
Nazi
selbst
Germany's after me now!
For some reason this video has 8 million views but only 8 comments, so that's kind of interesting. But anyway, this video, which took him, I don't know, probably an hour tops to make. That's honestly a complete lie. Probably took him like half an hour to make. All he does in the video is say some mediocre jokes and moves around his cursor, and it ended up making him around $17,000. Now, I'm pretty sure the average American makes like $60,000 a year, so that's probably like a quarter of a year's work in 30 minutes of playing Agar.io. And overall, Agar.io content has received around 2 billion views, which translates to around $4 million. Out of those 2 billion views, 60 million views went to this video, which was the most popular Agar.io video ever. Again, I got 60 million views, and from that he probably got $120,000. But back to the game. After a few months of Agar.io getting this insane success, Matthias Valderes was super shocked basically and didn't know exactly what to do from here, since he never really intended for the game to become so popular. So once he was reached out by Miniclip to buy the game for $1 million, he was obviously shocked. He was like, yes, of course, $1 million, what a great deal. And he immediately accepted, since he didn't really know where to scale from here. That deal, which gave him $1 million, would seem like a very great deal, but Miniclip would go on to get over $30 million from Agar.io, since what they would do is they would add a mobile version to the game, and then a few months later they would add a store, which there are two very simple things, but they would give them $29 million. And to be honest, I think Matthias should have just done it himself. But I'm assuming most of you guys don't really care how much money Matthias or Miniclip got from Agar.io, so nowadays Agar.io receives around 3,000 players a day, which is still quite a lot, but around 100 times less than its peak. But yeah, that's the end of this video. This video is recommended to me by a guy named Aries. Well, not specifically, he told me to make a game about the history of just .io games, but I read in between the lines. I knew what he meant. If you look at his profile picture, it's Agar.io background, so I think this is what he meant, you know, I did my research. So what I'm trying to say is that if you want me to make a video on a game which you like, then just leave in the comments, and the chance that I'll make a video on it is much higher than you think, since I am in a lack of ideas. So yeah, leave your comments, or don't, but anyway, see ya.